Welcome to Eau Claire is Here, your place to find out a little bit more about the people, places, and happenings going on in the best little city in Wisconsin. Eau Claire is Here is brought to you by Ned Donnellan, Donnellan Real Estate. And now your hosts, Jane Seymour Kunick, Scott Kunick, and Jerry Annis.
Hey, good day, everybody. My name is Jerry Annis, and welcome to another episode of Eau Claire is Here, and you should be too. We are here today with Scooter and Jane, and we're just starting out the new year. We've got a lot of great things coming up, don't we?
Yes, very excited. We have a great list of upcoming podcasts.
And episodes, and real estate's crazy. That just hasn't seemed to slow down at all. And
I can say it's been over 2.5 months since we've gotten this going, and it's pretty exciting to get it going again. I had a little bit of break there. I think it was a lot to do with life was pretty busy.
Holidays.
The holidays and COVID. I mean, our quarantining. I think everybody's probably knows somebody at this point that's had it.
Yeah. Well, and that even being said, we had the hunting season for a lot of people, and then it was the Thanksgiving, and then the Christmas. So I'm glad we're back in the saddle again, and we talk in the office, and we get together and visit, and it's like the Jerry Seinfeld stuff. Like, that's a podcast. We should talk about that. But there's a lot of great stuff. So today we kind of wanted to recap 2020 a little bit with the real estate, the market, what happened, and look ahead a little bit into 21 and speculate how that's going to be. But we've got a lot of great news even with real estate, right?
Yes, we do. We Jerry and I are starting a team, and we got a few members that we're going to introduce in another podcast, but we're real excited. Last year was great. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I know when this COVID stuff hit, what was it, 10 months ago, we thought, oh boy, there's going to be no real estate going on.
And everything kind of came to a screech just because it was different and new and scary. And really, in the real estate world, I mean, I remember in here in March where it should be go time, it was very, very quiet.
Right.
But we all put protocols into place, just like our MLS board did. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, 2020 was a better year than we've ever had.
Right, which is so strange to me. I know at our sales meeting this week that was talked about how this year Wisconsin sold more real estate than last year, and it just blows my mind.
Yeah, well, and so did Donnellan Real Estate. And then all of the agents, we've all had a better year than the previous year. And I think that's interesting because, when COVID did hit, came to a pretty quiet.
Yeah.
So we did that in 10.5 or 10 months.
Right.
And moving forward, everything looks to be like 2021 is going to be much of the same. Mm-hmm. But that being said, you talked a little bit about COVID. So we wanted to touch on that just briefly. And, I think it's 10 months. We've got the vaccinations coming. We've all figured out how to work with COVID with the protocols, screening our buyers. But, even now.
Keep a box of gloves in your car.
Yeah, and sanitizing, masks, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
But even moving forward, we all know somebody now that's had it. I mean, at the very beginning, it was like 30 cases in the whole county. Like, oh my! And now, brothers and sisters and family members, and now the vaccinations. And you can speak to the vaccinations a little bit, Scott.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I definitely think. I mean, it was definitely a heck of a year. We started off, like you said, I think, with a lot of fear, and there still is. I mean, it was some scary times. My parents just got cleared themselves. They had COVID, and they're in the higher risk category, but they were very impressed with Mayo and how they followed up on them, and we're very blessed. Some people didn't make it through this past year. We should, we need to remember that, and God bless them and their families. But my parents were fortunate, and so, and some of family or friends that we know, fortunately, we've been we were doing so far so good. But with that said, a lot of hope and progress. Your mom's getting the vaccine today, and your dad got it yesterday, and I, working in healthcare, have received the second dose myself, and it's pretty exciting. Yeah.
And you hear people talking about all this stuff. You got people who are ready and willing and want it. And I think that's most of us. But you have some of those people that are like, man,
not sure. Yeah,
it was 2 shots, right?
Yes, and it's understandable. It's to know how it's going to affect your body. For really, I didn't really have any side effects, and the first, especially the first one. Now the second one, people are worried about because there are a little more side effects. Where we did have a few coworkers because they were feeling some nauseousness and. But I felt it maybe a little tired, but really everybody's body's different. But I don't think it's anything, that hopefully people can do their research. There's enough people out there that have gotten it, and the small percentage of reactions, I would hope, wouldn't deter people from getting out there and doing it. I know it's a personal choice, but I think it's definitely gives us hope and optimism moving forward that we can get back to more of a sense of normal.
Right on. And
yes.
That's kind of the same thing with all these vaccines, right? Whether it's the flu or the shingles, you're going to feel some of that goofy stuff.
Right.
So, but what you felt was similar to maybe the flu vaccination.
Yeah, actually,
right?
I felt a little more arm soreness, but for 2 days, and that's what most of people are saying. For 2 days, you might experience a little symptoms. Your body's building up those antibodies, and that's showing that something's happening there.
Could your arm soreness be because I punched you?
No, and it wasn't from lifting weights.
Yeah. Well, good.
But yeah, it was just one of those, rolling on in the morning, soreness. The next morning, it was like, oh yeah, there's that. But
good.
Yeah, I think it's really a lot of hope and optimism and excitement moving forward. I'm just so happy that your parents have, being in their 80s, are, it's moving forward. So that's where we're at here in January, and that's a good sign.
Yeah, my mom's in a memory care community. This Sunday they're coming in for a 4-hour period, getting everybody done. So.
It's so awesome.
Yeah, well, thanks
so
for
good
sharing
to hear.
that.
Yeah,
that's got to make people feel.
Yeah.
Now, Jane and I were talking. Every Tuesday we have these sales meetings, and we meet as a group. But Jane and I were chit-chatting afterwards, and kind of sharing some funny stories. So we thought we'd share a couple funny ones today. I mean, when you talk about real estate, sometimes goofy stuff happens, and so maybe this next little segment is real estate and animals.
Right. So
we got a story.
So we recently bought a cabin, as you know, and we've had critters in there. We've had the mice, and we've had bats.
Northwoods.
Yeah.
So
I had to get rabies shots because there was a bat in my room.
Well, I think that was more of her paranoia. But
yeah, but you thought you got bit in your sleep, right?
Yes. So we, of course, it being winter, we haven't been up there as much. But 2 weeks ago, we went up, and I found big walnuts in several places, in the kitchen, in the dining room. Then my brother went the next weekend and found them in the living room. And so we decided we had a bigger animal than a mouse, because the nuts were pretty big.
Yeah.
And so we got 2 live traps and set the traps. Scott set them. He met an exterminator up there, and so I was supposed to go a couple days later and check the traps. And I was pretty confident.
Well, and you were showing houses up there.
Yeah, I was pretty confident that I would be able to handle whatever happened with the traps. I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure whether they were going to be.
What you were
There's
going
lots
to catch.
of squirrels
No,
out there.
right. I wasn't sure what I was going to catch. I wasn't sure if there's going to be anything in it, but
we had a your daughter saw a chipmunk in the house climb up on the couch one time we were up there.
So I get to the house, and again, I was feeling confident. Well, I'll just take the cage and put it in my car with the squirrel, because the exterminator told Scott, you can't just release it, have the live trap and then release it back outside, because if you do, it'll just come right back. You have to get 15 miles away.
Jeez.
Okay, so
I said to him, well, can we just take it across the river there? He said, there's a bridge.
Yeah.
So I get there with my big confidence of thinking I'm going to be able to handle this, and I open the door, and I barely could open the door. I mean, and I'm looking for a squirrel in a cage.
Yeah.
But I still
Pissed
was
off.
frightened.
Nonetheless. A growling squirrel.
An angry
He
squirrel.
would have been fed. I mean, there was peanuts in there, some peanut butter.
So anyways, I went around the corner and I saw the trap, and it had been tripped, but there was no animal in it. But I am proud and happy to announce that my brother went yesterday, and
Family cabin.
Yeah.
I reset the trap, and he found a squirrel in the trap. So I again said to him, you got to take it further away than 15 miles. He's like, I'm on my way to Trigo.
Which is how many miles? 80?
Yeah, he's like,
He's not going to find his way
he's
back
like,
home.
I'm going to let it out in Trigo. And then my sister-in-law, my brother's wife, said, well, what about his family?
Oh, jeez. Yeah. Oh,
Well, we're going to be setting more traps.
well,
His
well, then
family,
we catch
maybe
the
we can
rest
join them.
Yeah.
We can get them back together.
Didn't you guys set
find a
that
new
a few
home.
times, and you put all the feed
Yes.
out, and you'd come and the trap wasn't set, and
Well, and that's
all the food was gone, right? You're like,
yes, because
tricky
the guy said you got to get rid of the mice first
yeah.
because they're eating your bait and tripping the wires as well.
It's the food chain.
Right.
Well, that just reminds me, when we lived in Eau Claire, we had, this bird feeder out in the backyard. So we had squirrels all over, and they weren't in the house, but just a pain, messing everything up, eating all this bird food. And so we had that live trap like you guys did, where you set the ends up, and there's that little piece in the middle. You step on it, and then it closes. So once you trap them, you got them. So I started doing that, and we had squirrel after squirrel. So the very first squirrel that we trapped, my two boys, Tucker and Jake, were pretty young. They're probably 5 and 3. It's like, hey, we got one, Dad. Yeah. So I picked that trap up. I said, all right, let's go, bring it. And I didn't go 15 miles, but drove out of town a little bit.
See, you were just recatching the same squirrel. If you didn't go 15 miles.
Yeah, maybe. But we had a minivan back in the day just because of the 3 young kids. And so I put this cage in the back, closed the hatch. The little, my sons get in, and we drive. And all right, now we're going to be nice and let this thing escape and be free. So we get out and unbuckle them. We go to the back, and the cage is empty. So, because when those cages drop, there's a little thing you could slide down so it can't push it up.
A little up.
So it's like Christmas Vacation with Chevy Chase. It's like, squirrel!
Right.
So
Abort the van!
So we were driving for like 10 minutes, and I don't know where the heck the squirrel was, but it was loose in the van with my two. So
Goodness.
We opened all the doors, and and I shook stuff, and I don't remember seeing that squirrel getting out, but I think it was out.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so that was a little. And you had a neighbor.
Oh yeah, I had a neighbor that, like you, had a lot of squirrels in his yard, and he didn't like all the squirrels, so he set live traps, and he would spray paint their butts red and release them in Carson Park, and wanted to know then if they would make their way back to his house.
Did you ever see him?
I don't remember. I was a kid, and it was
Yes,
across the street from where I grew up. But I just thought that was so funny.
Well, they're
That'd be
smarter.
interesting to know.
Sure.
And what do the neighbors think? You're holding this thing up and spraying directly up the tail end of a squirrel.
Be careful. Red squirrels, I heard, they're aggressive,
Well, yeah,
so you want to be careful.
Yeah, those red
But-
squirrels are the bad ones because they can chew through the wood and the trim and the soffit and get in.
Yeah.
We had friends up north who had families of red squirrels in the attic because they chew a little hole and get in there. And
Well, I mean,
So
it-
if you're gonna have a squirrel, you should go gray.
Go gray.
Go gray.
well, the flying squirrels apparently they can. Homeowners tip. I mean, you got to clear. He told us we got to cut some branches. They're obviously easily accessing our house,
Yeah.
our cabin. And then one other story. You remember, we had them in our house here in Eau Claire. They made a nest. They're smart. They're like, hey, this is great shelter, right in our like faucet or the
Soffit.
fascia or soffit. Excuse me.
That's a
Shelter.
combination of
Yeah,
of
yeah,
fish
right,
and
right.
something.
A faucet?
Faucet.
And I just kept trying to shoo him away. I would bang on that area of the house to try to scare him out. And I think the mom eventually said, okay, this is not a good place for kids, because sure enough, all of a sudden it wasn't just, I mean, it was her and the babies, and taken one at a
them out.
time. There was like at least 3 or 4 babies taken out, and then she had found another place that she was taking them to. And then we quickly, I think, boarded that up
Oh.
or fixed it so
Yeah.
that they could not come back.
Well, and my only experience with an animal inside the house is a little different. I wish it was a squirrel, but it was something else. When, we lived up in Monaco for a number of years, and so our home was out in the middle of the woods. We lived on a little lake, and we had this big yellow lab, Chuck, 110-pound yellow lab, and then we had a cat. So the door between the garage and the house, that little screen door, we cut a little section on the bottom to make like a cat door, so the cat could come in and out. It was an outdoor cat, and that thing killed every mouse and chipmunk. But we did that for the cat. So one summer day, Martha and I, we got up. We usually clutch in the morning. We, brew a cup of coffee, and we had this nice little 3-season porch on the back overlooking. And, so we're out there drinking coffee. There's a couch and a bigger couch, and we're just sitting in the corner. And then Sophie came in, and she was probably 5 or 6. So she sits down on the floor and she starts playing, and Martha and I are just sipping our coffee, chatting. Then Sophie is like, there's something underneath the table. So we had this little table between the couches, and I'm like, what is it? She's like, I don't know, but it's moving.
Oh,
So,
boy.
Yeah, I got up and looked down, and we had a skunk in our house. And I was just like, oh my gosh, and we got this dog that chases everything. And so the skunk at night, came into the garage, went through that little flip-flap door, and luckily it went into that 3-season room. But I didn't know how to get rid of it. I called
Did it spray? It must have stunk.
No, it didn't spray, luckily.
Thank God.
So evidently it felt safe, but I couldn't, I couldn't figure out how to get rid of it.
You were a hospital.
Were you talking skunk to it? Is that what you told them?
I was passing gas, trying to lure them away a little bit. No, but I called every exterminator, and they're like, no, we won't touch those. We won't do
Thanks
that.
for calling.
And then, I had a gun. I'm like, well, worst case, I'm going to really mess up the room and probably stink it up. And I didn't want to do that either. So I called a veterinarian. I said, hey, we got a skunk that came in the house. Blah, blah,
You
blah.
want it.
But he just said, you know what, leave it be. Close that room off, just leave it be. And then tonight, when you guys go to bed, open the door and put something really smelly in, like a path outside. So when we went to bed, Martha opened up a can of tuna, and she just put little chunks in a path, for this thing to smell it and eat it and go out. And we woke up the next morning, the skunk was gone, the tuna was gone, and Jerry's happy.
Oh, thank God.
Happy
Oh my
ending.
gosh. How did you go
Happy.
to sleep with that? I'm Lord.
I did.
Shut your doors, kids.
Yeah, but that's goofy stuff like that. And you hear stuff about animals and squirrels, and I've heard, deer getting into a house, breaking
Right,
through a window and
right.
just making a mess. But
Oh my goodness.
crazy stuff.
That's why you pay. Yeah, that's why you have homeowners insurance.
Right.
Yeah, it could have been worse. So
Well, let's hope 2021 doesn't bring any more animals into your house or my house.
just happy buyers and happy
Happy
sellers.
buyers and happy sellers.
That's right.
And so here's to 2021 for not only real estate, but for lots of other things that we need to hopefully improve upon with
Mm-hmm.
2020. And one big thank you out to Ned Donnellan and Donnellan Real Estate for sponsoring our podcast. We're very excited about that. They're going to be our corporate sponsor for all of our podcasts. And
First sponsor, we're really excited. It's fittingly, it makes sense.
Well, and the other thing I would maybe add on to all that is we love what we do. This is really going to be fun. In our podcast, we want to focus on real estate, and really it's Eau Claire's here. and
People,
YouTube.
places, and events that
Yeah.
are going on
But
right
maybe
here.
for the listeners out there, we've got a big list of fun stuff that's going to come up. But if listeners out there or viewers have suggestions or ideas, we would love to hear it, because we want to be relevant and share everything that Eau Claire has to offer. So,
Absolutely, yeah. Please, we
Good.
appreciate the feedback.
all right. Well, thanks for listening, folks.
peace out.
All right. See you next time.
Thank you for listening to Eau Claire is Here. The best way to support this podcast is by subscribing, giving a 5-star rating, and writing a review. Find out more at eauclairishere.com or find us on Facebook. Eau Claire is Here is brought to you by Ned Donnellan, Donnellan Real Estate.